It was 2:03 a.m. when the phone rang, the kind of shrill, urgent sound that doesn't belong in the middle of the night. Evan Mercer woke up instantly, his heart pounding in that confused fog between sleep and reality. He reached for the phone, squinting at the unknown number glowing on the cracked screen. On the other end was a trembling voice, a young woman crying, scared, and clearly mistaking him for someone else. "Please, you have to come. My driver didn't show up, and my father, he's gone. I can't do this alone." The call ended before he could explain she had the wrong number. And in that moment, half asleep and half curious, something inside him wouldn't let him ignore it. Maybe it was the way her voice cracked on that last word. Maybe it was because he knew exactly what it felt like to be alone at night, desperate for someone to show up. So, he did. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and how small choices can change lives forever, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Let's spread real stories that remind the world that good people still exist. The streets were nearly empty as Evan drove through the sleeping city in his old, beat-up truck. The air was cold, and the city lights painted the windshield with streaks of gold and gray. His daughter, 8-year-old Nora, was asleep back home with the neighbor watching her. He'd told Mrs. Lang he needed to step out for something important. He didn't know why he said yes to a stranger at 2 a.m., but something about it felt like he was supposed to. He followed the address that had come through as a text moments after the call ended. It led him to the hills on the city's edge, a mansion that looked like it belonged in another world entirely. When he arrived, the iron gates stood open, swaying slightly in the wind. The front door was half open too. He called out, but no one answered. Inside, he found a young woman sitting on the floor in a satin robe, her long dark hair falling across her tear-streaked face. A shattered glass was beside her, and a framed photo of an older man lay face down nearby. She looked up at him, confused but somehow relieved. "You came," she whispered, her voice barely holding together. Evan hesitated, realizing she had no idea who he was. "I got your call," he said gently. "I think you might have dialed the wrong number." For a moment she stared at him, eyes wide, disbelief mixing with exhaustion, and then she broke down again. "It doesn't matter," she sobbed. "You came. That's all that matters." He didn't know what to do except sit beside her. He offered her his handkerchief and quietly waited as she cried into the silence of that enormous, empty house. Her name was Clara Winford, heiress to the Winford fortune, a name plastered across hospital wings, real estate towers, and charity galas. Her father had died earlier that night, leaving her with a legacy she didn't want and a loneliness she didn't understand. She confessed she'd called her father's driver, begging him to come get her, because she couldn't stand being in that house alone. But in her trembling panic, she'd misdialed by one number, and reached Evan instead. Evan, a single dad and mechanic, lived a life as far from hers as one could imagine. His wife, Leela, had passed away 3 years earlier after a long illness, leaving him to raise Nora alone. Between bills, school lunches, and a garage job that barely covered rent, he didn't have room for surprises. But still that night, he stayed with Clara until the sun rose. He made her tea from her own kitchen, found her a blanket, and listened as she talked about how her father's love had always been distant, wrapped in success and pressure. She said she didn't even know how to grieve him because she'd never really known him. Evan told her about Nora, about how he feared not being enough for her, about how loss doesn't get smaller, you just grow around it. When morning came, Clara looked at him as if she were seeing someone real for the first time in years. "You didn't have to stay," she said quietly. "But you did." Evan only smiled. "Sometimes people just need someone to show up," he replied. He thought that was the end of it. A strange night he'd never tell anyone about. But it wasn't. 2 days later, Clara showed up at his garage. She was dressed simply this time, jeans and a coat, her hair pulled back, looking more human than the porcelain Heiress he'd seen before. She handed him a bag of coffee and donuts. "I didn't know how to say thank you," she said, "so I thought I'd just say it in person." They talked as he worked on an old car, the smell of oil and metal filling the air. She asked questions about engines and tools, laughed when she got grease on her hands, and said it was the most normal she'd felt in months. Days turned into weeks. Clara began visiting often, sometimes bringing books for Nora, sometimes bringing lunch for Evan. Nora adored her, calling her Miss C and showing her drawings of cars and stars. Clara found comfort in their warmth, and they found light in her presence. She helped Nora with school projects, learned how to fix a tire, and even cooked dinner at their tiny apartment one night. For someone who had grown up in glittering loneliness, this life, the noise, the mess, the laughter, felt like home. But not everyone understood. The tabloids caught on, spinning headlines about the Heiress and the mechanic. Clara's business advisors urged her to distance herself. Her father's estate lawyers questioned her choices. Evan felt the pressure too. Customers whispered, friends teased, and even Mrs. Lang warned him. People like her don't stay in places like this, Evan. The tension built quietly. One evening, Clara stopped by the garage after a charity event. She was in a shimmering silver gown, still wearing the world of wealth on her shoulders. Evan was closing shop, grease-stained and tired. She looked at him for a long moment before saying, "Do you ever feel like we're pretending? Like this is a dream that'll fade when morning comes?" He wiped his hands on a rag, avoiding her eyes. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but maybe that's why it's worth holding on to." Then, one morning, she disappeared. No calls, no visits, no texts. Days passed, then a week. Evan told himself she'd gone back to her world, and maybe she had. Nora asked about her every night until he stopped knowing what to say. Life returned to its quiet rhythm, though the silence felt heavier now. 2 months later, Evan received a letter in the mail. It was written on cream-colored paper, the handwriting delicate and familiar. "I'm sorry I left without a word," it began. "I had to sort things out. My father's estate, my future, my heart. You once said people just need someone to show up. That night you showed up for me. Now it's my turn." The letter included an address and a time. That afternoon, Evan drove to the edge of the city again, only this time to a different place. A community lot that had been vacant for years. When he arrived, he saw Clara standing there in jeans and boots, holding a blueprint. Behind her, workers were setting up signs that read Winford Community Garage. In partnership with Mercer Repairs. She smiled at his stunned expression. "I used the inheritance to start something real," she said softly. "A place where single parents can get free car repairs, where people can learn trades, and where you, if you'll accept, can help me run it." Evan could barely speak. "Clara, this is too much," he murmured. She shook her head. "It's not charity. It's a thank you. You showed me what family means, what kindness feels like. I want to build something that matters. With you." Nora came running from a nearby tent where she'd been playing with other kids. "Dade, Miss C's making a garage with your name on it," she squealed. Evan knelt, pulling her close as tears filled his eyes. That night, under a golden sky fading into twilight, the three of them stood side by side, watching as workers hung the final sign. The air smelled like hope and engine oil, like beginnings and healing. For the first time since his wife's passing, Evan felt something shift inside him. The ache of loneliness slowly replaced by something new. He looked at Clara, who was watching Nora draw hearts in the dust, and said quietly, "You really didn't have to show up that night." She smiled through the glow of the setting sun. "Neither did you, but we both did, and maybe that's what saved us." As the first light flickered on at the new garage, Evan realized that sometimes the wrong call can lead you exactly where you're meant to be. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that kindness can rewrite someone's life, please don't forget to like, comment, and share this video, and subscribe to Kindness Journal for more true to life stories that restore faith in humanity. Special request: comment below with, "I believe in second chances," if this story made you feel something real today. And as the night fell quietly over the city that once kept them apart, the mechanic, his daughter, and the Heiress stood together. Not because fate planned it, but because sometimes the wrong number can be the right beginning.